Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. Today I'm reviewing Pet Sematary Bloodlines, now streaming on Paramount Plus. So this movie is a prequel to the 2019 Pet Sematary film, which is obviously based on the Stephen King novel. And in this one, we see a young Judd. This takes place 50 years before that film. So we're seeing him as a young man, and he's dealing with the curse of Ludlow and everything that goes along with that. I have to say, while I didn't hate this movie, and I don't actually think it's a particularly bad movie or poorly made, it just feels so incredibly unnecessary. When you're working on such a kind of beloved property as Pet Sematary, it feels like it should be expanding on the lore more, giving us more insight into this really intriguing curse, and it never really feels like it does that. There are some things in this film that I actually liked. It does kind of graze the surface of dealing with PTSD and the war movement and everything going on in this small town, but it never feels like it capitalizes on those themes or it expands on the themes of the original film. The idea of not being able to let go or accept loss or kind of playing God, it does that to just a very small degree. That first film, particularly the original film and the story itself, does a great job of capitalizing on that theme. This one doesn't really feel like it does that, and it really slowly devolves into kind of like a traditional horror film by the end. I think the performances were decent. No one was really a standout for me. There are a few actors in this film that I would have kind of expected maybe a little more from. I'm actually a big David Duchovny fan because I love X-Files. So when he popped up right away, I was like, I didn't even know he was in this movie. He doesn't really do a whole lot. Nobody in this film really does anything for the most part, to be honest with you. It's under an hour and a half long, so it doesn't feel like we ever get to fully invest ourselves in these characters. While I think the direction and overall production of the film is pretty solid, the actual editing of the story together, it feels kind of messy. We're jumping back and forth. It never feels like you're given any time to really, like I said, grow with these characters or kind of invest in the story at it being under an hour and a half long. So it is interesting. We're jumping back between all these kind of like subplots between multiple side characters. So it just feels kind of messy and rushed by the end. I think the thing that really falls flat for me with this film is the idea that we're not getting any more new information or expanding on this story, making it feel, like I said, very unnecessary. There's only one flashback scene to the early days of Ludlow and kind of showing how the curse started with the early settlers and the early families, hence kind of the name Bloodline, like following these bloodlines to the current day families. It doesn't really kind of build anything off of that, and it's kind of disappointing they decided to go that route. And they don't even really fully explore kind of the Native American folklore elements of it. They do it for like very subtle bit of the film. There's maybe one or two scenes that slightly dive into that, but it never really feels like we're given anything. It just feels like, oh, this is a prequel that's not really telling you anything or not developing the story anymore. There are some decent horror elements. This movie does get really gory as the movie moves along. So if you're a horror fan that's just in it for maybe kind of a fun film, you might enjoy it. It is a touch slow, even with being an hour and a half long. But I do think the horror elements are executed pretty well. There's some really intense kills by the end of the film. So at the end of the day, if I were to rate Pet Sematary Bloodlines, I would give it a 5 out of 10. I think it's a perfectly average movie. I don't think it's aggressively bad. I don't think it's very good either. I think it falls right in the middle. There's some elements, like I said, the direction, I think the actual acting's decent. I think the set design and the production's decent, but the story just falls so flat that I can't give it any higher score than that. So if you check out this movie, let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. And I'm also interested to know what you think about the 2019 remake or the original film, or if you've read the original novel, how you feel about kind of the adaptation or expanding on that. There's so many opinions whenever a Stephen King property comes out, even though this isn't kind of directly linked to that in many ways. I always like to hear what people think, but they're maybe more invested in these franchises. So again, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.